My name's Alison Maloni. I own a PR company in Massachusetts, but we have clients all over the place. And I'm a former journalist. And so I was a news reporter in Providence and in New York and in Massachusetts. And I decided to get out of the business because I did not want to stand out in the snow anymore at 4 in the morning. So I went for a more normal job. PR, as Kevin talked about, is all about storytelling. And you all have a story. Your CEOs, your startups, your business, there's all a story there. But the key is to figure out what that story is. The media doesn't care that you've been in business for 50 years. They don't care that you're a startup. They want to know, what are you doing to help people? What are you doing that's different? You're the CEO of a company. What has made you? Have you sold t-shirts out of your truck to survive for 2 years and now you're a big brand in Boston? They want to know those kinds of stories. So the key to getting exposure is coming up with a really good story. And if my team were to pitch me to, say, Entrepreneur Magazine or another major media outlet, my story about being a CEO and a former journalist and a mom of 3, nobody cares. But if I tell the story about how I actually started and I'm real and authentic, that's when they are going to have a little interest. So I'm going to open myself up and be real and authentic, and that's a really bad fuzzy picture that I made my parents find of me when I was 9 years old. When I was 9, I wanted to be a journalist, and I met this local news reporter at the state fair they had in Massachusetts, and I told her that I wanted to be a reporter. She invited me to the TV station. My dad and I drove up. It was on top of a mountain at like 11 at night for 11 o'clock newscast, and I got to see how the news was produced. And after she gave me her news scripts, you would have thought I got like a signed t-shirt from New Kids on the Block, but I got these news scripts and I was so excited because I actually got to see how they write the news and how it all comes together. So I was a little bit of a dork. I went back home and I started really watching the news. And I would watch it and I would practice speaking. How do they speak? How is their inflection and their dictation and how are they saying things? And I would practice and pretend I was a newscaster. I would then go and read the local news, the newspaper, and I would start writing my own scripts from the scripts that she gave me. And I learned what voiceover meant, and voiceover sound over tape. And I would start creating my own newscast. At 9 years old, I would then go put my mom's makeup on. I'd go wear her clothes with, like, those blazers, because the pantsuits were pretty popular back in the 80s. I wanted to be that newscaster. I wanted to be a 30-year-old newscaster. I stuffed my bra because I needed to look like somebody who was on TV, and I would sit there at my desk and I would practice the news. And when I would get in trouble, my parents would say, "You can't watch the news tonight." Unlike other kids that couldn't go outside and watch play, I wouldn't be able to watch the news. But those scripts took me to a place where I started to really write news at 9 years old. Fast forward 20 years later, I was at that anchor desk with my own scripts at that TV station anchoring. So that kind of explains a little bit about my story, which is different than just being a journalist or a CEO. So I'm all embarrassed because I told you I stuck my bra and I did all of that. But so you all have some sort of story like that, and your business all has some sort of story. So there's a couple of ways, how do you get that out, right? I mean, there's so many different media outlets. There's podcasts, there's blogs, there's newspaper, there's national news. One of the ways that you really want to start driving attention is HARO. Does anybody know what HARO is?
No.
Eric knows.
Okay.
Actually, Eric, you were in, where were you featured? Did you get in like Inc. or Forbes?
No, I didn't get anything big like that, but we got on a lot of websites and a lot of like New Year's resolution kinds of articles. Okay, so a lot of backlinks to our site.
I love it. So if you don't know what HARO is, it's called Help a Reporter Out. It's a free service. I know you were using HARO, right? It's a free service, and what it does is bloggers, podcasters, producers, I'm talking NBC, The Today Show, Forbes, Inc., they all put out on a daily basis what stories they're working on and what they're looking for. So, for example, Forbes will say, we're looking for CEOs to talk about how you built your business and what separates you. They're giving you this content. They're giving you this opportunity to say, I can talk about that. So you have an opportunity to email. It's like a third-party source. You email them directly and you say, hi, I am the CEO of X, Y, and Z company. Here's my story. You give them talking points. You submit it. If they're interested, they end up printing your story, or they'll call you back to do more of a full-length interview. These come out 3 times a day, 5:30 a.m., 12:30 p.m., and then 5:30 p.m., 5 days a week. We have gotten so much media coverage. All it takes is time. You all can sign up for it, and there's technology, there's finance, there's lifestyle, health, fitness. Every area that you all work with is in there, and you have an opportunity to do it. So I highly suggest you check that out. You'll get a lot of these opportunities. The key that I think is you have to respond immediately. They put deadlines on there. Don't pay attention to that. The faster you respond, the quicker they're going to get your information, and you'll have more of a chance to get your story out there. So check out HARO. That's my first thing. The other, a couple of other ways to get your story told are pitches. Do you all know what the difference is between a pitch and a press release? No? Okay. So the press release is that typical who, what, when, where, why, media advisory. You have the headline. You usually have a quote from the CEO or from whoever, and it's pretty basic. So when you're submitting something about an award or a ribbon cutting, those are appropriate press releases to have. Or, you know, for Kevin's company, if they just launched, you know, new office in San Antonio, they put a press release out to the local media as well as San Antonio. But a pitch is more of a customized way to say, I can talk to you and I can talk to you now. The journalists like pitches a lot more than they like press releases because they get like 100+ emails a day of press releases. And I'll get into the do's and don'ts of press releases, but the pitch is really what the journalists love. And there's a couple of ways that you can pitch. One is news relevant pitch. So if something's going on today, local news likes to localize national stories. So if you're an accountant and there's a news story that we're going to get smaller refunds this year, okay, you take that and you email the news producers at your local TV stations as well as the local newspapers, and you say, hi, I'm an accountant. The news just published that we're getting lesser refunds. Is that true? Yes, no, I'm an expert. I can talk about that, how this is going to affect local taxpayers, how this will affect business owners. So you take what's happening now in the news that you are an expert, you can talk about, and you send that right out. Keep it super basic. Who you are, hyperlink your website or your bio, quick bullet points, contact me. If they're interested, they'll contact you, but they're going to want to talk to you in like an hour. They want to cover that story that day. So just know if you're going to pitch the media, don't do it while you're vacationing in Hawaii because they're going to want to talk to you and come to your office, and they'll spend 15-20 minutes with you, and then it will be on the news. So that's a really good, quick way to get out there as an expert. Second part is industry expert pitch. So in your industry, you all pay attention to what's happening. You read the trade publications, like Kevin just read Adweek and found out that story about Coors. So whatever is happening in your industry that may be relevant, pitch the media again. If you were a realtor and you just read that home sales are expected to spike in Orlando, reach out to the media and say, hey, I don't know if you saw this, but you know, it's spring, people are putting their homes on the market, we can expect to see more home sales. I can talk about X, Y, and Z, what this means, what we should be thinking about, how this is going to affect the local economy. Send that to them because they may not know, because again, it's so fast-paced. So take what you're good at and pitch to the media because they always want to talk about how this is going to affect their local viewers and readers. And then the third pitch is your story. It's kind of like what I spoke about. What is it that makes you different? If you are talking about your company and you want to talk about a new product you have, that's great, but in that story, talk about how that product is going to help somebody or have somebody speak about how that product helped that person. So always think about what the journalist wants. The journalist wants to know, is this going to be relevant to my readers and viewers? Do they care? So you have to take yourself out of your own kind of bubble. We always say this to our clients. We're like, you may think this is really cool, but the media is not going to care. Because again, they're thinking, will our viewers and readers want to share this out? Will they want to watch this? Does this mean anything to them? So those are the three types of pitches. And I guarantee if you really go back to your team, some of you are a one team person, but if you bring in your CEO or your CFO or your HR person and say, okay guys, what do we have for stories? Because you can always pitch your human resource person as an expert in the media. You can always, so think beyond just pitching who you are and what you do, but think about the team you have, because I'm sure there's some really cool stories. How many millennials do you have working for you? Do you have a really cool office space? Do you do something neat? Are you involved with a nonprofit? How are you giving back? Are you collaborating with other companies and nonprofits? All those things to think about, that will bring you media attention. So this I want to give you an example of how we did exactly that, how we told a story we used video, and then how we received national coverage. So this, we're going to play, we're not going to play the whole thing because it's super long, but I'll give you a little backstory. There was a camp that was built in Virginia Beach. It's called the JT camp, and basically what it is a camp for wounded veterans, Gold Star families, and kids with special needs. One-of-a-kind camp. It's a place where all three of these folks can go to. They can do things. They can go in and they can have a ropes course, and they can go into a zero-entry pool. So you can have a little boy who's in a wheelchair can be talking to a veteran who lost his legs, and they can relate to each other. So it took years to build. The whole community got involved. I know that Kevin's team did some things with them. We had the story. And I asked the media initially, and I got nothing from them because it wasn't going to be open, and they want visual. They're like, when's it opening? They come and cover it when it's opening. The other part of it is that we incorporated video. So anytime you have an opportunity to incorporate video or images with that pitch or even a press release, the media wants to see it. They want to hear it, they want to see it, they want to visualize it. So I wrote the pitch, talked about this camp, gave some examples of how this is helping kids and veterans of Gold Star families, told the media, we have these people who can speak to you, and then we showed them this video.
You know, I never gave much thought to being severely wounded. Kind of assumed that if anything ever happened on the battlefield, I would be killed or it would just be a minor injury. You can't comprehend it, you can't understand it until you're in that bed and you're faced with the reality.
This is on YouTube and Vimeo if you want to watch the whole thing. I won't have you guys watch the whole thing. But this told the stories of these three families who were affected by different circumstances. In the video, it continues to talk about what this camp will do. So we already gave the media, we're like, here are your people who you can interview. They all have such really strong stories. So we sent this video with the pitch and said the camp is opening in about a month, and we immediately heard back from one of the producers at Fox and Friends. Normally, when we work with the national media, we'll go up to the studio and tell our story, but they said, we're gonna come down to you and we're going to do a whole segment. And I, like, in my geeky world, I was like jumping up and down, so I'm like, oh my God, this is so huge, because now everybody is going to know about what this camp is doing. And it was just such a great feeling. The video was originally produced just to get the word out, obviously to raise money and to let everyone know about this camp that was being built. But what we did is we took that and incorporated that in the pitch and say, here's more on this camp, and we can give you Jason Redman and the twins, and we can give you the Gold Star family. So they use that on social media to promote as well. But what the media did is, so Curly Shimkus from Fox and Friends came down with a crew and spent the entire day there and did a whole segment on it. She interviewed all of the folks that we had given them. They got all of people interacting, and then it aired, I think it aired like a week later, but we knew ahead of time, so we were able to promote it. Funny story, so if you ever are working with the media, and, oh sorry, my hair, sorry, I keep getting yelled at because it's hitting the microphone. When you're working with the media, sometimes they need things from you, whether it's photos or video, and they left Virginia Beach and they called me and they said, we didn't get enough B-roll, which is video. Can you get more B-roll for us? I said, sure, what do you want me to video with? They're like, your phone. So I filmed a lot of B-roll for them on my iPhone, which they then edited and used as part of their story. But this just kind of is like the perfect case study of how you put together a pitch and get that national media attention. And of course, we got local media as well, but this was a great opportunity for the folks at the camp to generate that buzz. So press releases. How many of you have written press releases? Okay. So press releases, like I said, a lot, they're good. So there's like kind of an argument, are they dead? They're not dead. I personally hate writing them, but there's, like I said, a reason to write them. If you have awards, if you want to, even in your local business publication, let somebody know that you now have added somebody to the team. or if you even promoted somebody. So your local business media, like Kevin was speaking about, they cover a lot of that. So press releases are really good to get your name out there, and a lot of these are all online. So again, it helps with SEO. You can share it on social media, and more people will say, I saw you here, I saw you won this award, I saw you're expanding. The number one thing you want to think about when doing a press release is to keep it short, just like the pitch. Because again, we all know when we get those emails from either clients or team members, and it's just like paragraph after paragraph after, and you're like, oh my, I can't even read this right now. And then you kind of put it aside. Well, that's what the journalists think. They just want to know, what is it? Does this impact me and my viewers? Do I care, and should I cover it? And get to the point is really what they're asking. So the number one thing you want to make sure you have is a really good subject line in your email. Because don't do a bait and switch, because they're going to know. Don't do all capitals like must cover, you have to, wait till you hear about this story. Keep it real, but draw them in. Think about a creative way to get them to open that email that makes sense. So you want to have that good subject line, and then you want to have that good headline. Again, something that's going to want them to continue to read, because again, if it's really boring and really generic, they're just going to toss it away. When you are doing a press release, don't attach it, because sometimes with spam, with the media, it goes into their spam. So you want to copy and paste your press release, embed it, have it in your email. Include pictures if you have those. Hyperlink your company's name, hyperlink your CEO's name, anything you can do to make things quick and easy for them. You want to, if you can, individually, now it all depends on what you're doing, but if you can individually email each media outlet on the local level and address it. Hello, John, if you know John is the assignment editor, that makes it personal a little bit. So the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine did something the other day on LinkedIn, and he said he got an email and it said, hello, I stumbled upon your media outlet and thought this would be a good fit. And he's like, you stumbled upon Entrepreneur Magazine. Like, you didn't even take the chance to like actually personalize it and know who you're pitching to. So that's the other thing too. So you have a great media list, which takes a while. Know who you're pitching to. If you're pitching a technology story, don't pitch it to the health and lifestyle reporter at the paper, because believe it or not, a lot of them get that. So really know who you're pitching to. And try and build those relationships with journalists. They don't have a lot of time during the day. They can't go out to lunch. They can't really grab a drink. But what you can do is follow them on social media and start sharing out their content. Don't stalk them, but just do it in a way that the best compliment they can receive is when you share out their stories. So Twitter is huge for the media. How many of you have Twitter handles? Awesome. Okay. I would recommend getting a Twitter account, even if you think it does not make sense for your industry. More and more people are going to Twitter, and the media is all over Twitter. So it's a great way for you to find journalists. You can also search them if you're trying to build a list through LinkedIn. Just type in the name of the media outlet, type in producer for X, Y, and Z company, or editor, reporter, business reporter. A lot of the media outlets have specific reporters, so business reporter, finance, technology. CNBC is a whole group of technology reporters that just constantly put out content. So, so try and spend a lot of time researching them, and then that will definitely like help you when you're pitching. So there is a time for press releases. Again, I love them, but it's worth it. And the storytelling aspect, I mean, I talked about the story in the beginning, but it really does set the stage. I mean, in marketing, customers and clients, the public, they don't want to hear about your product. They want to hear about a story. They want to know, how is this going to help them, and how does this help somebody else? And the same thing is for the journalists. They're storytellers. So you want to make sure that you give them a really good story, and you all have it. So I just challenge you to go back with your team and try and figure out what those stories are. And if you sit there and you're like, I don't know, we don't want to do press releases, or we're just starting, or we're not that big, keep in mind that you are the experts. So you're experts in marketing, you're experts in what you do, and you have experts on staff. So the best way, if you can't get coverage from putting out awards or putting out press releases, you can write. What Kevin does is he writes articles for his local business publication. And that is the best way, because A, you're controlling your own content. Sometimes when you pitch the media and they do a story on you, you get 10 seconds of sound or maybe one quote. But this, you're controlling the message and you're putting out your expertise. So the more you're out there as an expert, people are going to recognize that. And it's all about building your brand and reputation. So write for other, what a lot of the media outlets are doing now, because they're trying to cut costs, they're taking contributing writers. You don't get paid for it, but you get to write. Believe it or not, you can apply to write for Forbes, and you can apply to write for Entrepreneur Magazine and all of these big ones. The more you write locally and start getting recognized, and the bigger reputation you build, the more opportunity you'll have to write for other of these big media outlets. So that's my thing. I think that's it. Do you guys have questions? You can't see what you're making for your money, but the more you're in the media, the more people will recognize you, the more people will see you. On social media, you'll drive more people to your website, you'll drive more followers. Again, it's just the more you're out there, it's image is everything, and it's all about your reputation. So you want to be in the media, even if it's a small blog or a small podcast.